talk about, like, why maybe Twyla and Roberta kind of had their whole scuffle? Like, what was up with that?
What was up with that?
Well, I mean, like, you know, first time they meet after seeing each other, you know, who knows how many years, Roberta's just really cold, towards her, and then...
Do you think that had something to do, though, with, like...
I don't know, maybe it has something to do with Maggie.
Do you think that, like...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was just saying, like, you know, like that, after they meet for the first time, like, at that restaurant, John Howard's or something like that, like, you know, Roberta was, like, really cold towards Twyla. Do you think that she had already thought that, like, Twyla and Roberta had kissed Maggie?
Yeah, I think so. And, you know what, I think what I'm thinking now is, well, they hated Maggie when they were little girls because of their moms. Like, maybe they hate each other now because of Maggie and what they think happened with Maggie, and their guilt about what they think they did to Maggie or might not have done to Maggie.
But it wasn't even Twyla who was guilty, because she had no problem with Roberta, and also because, like, she had no memory of it, and we would have known because it was from her perspective, and, like, she would have mentioned it.
No, you're right, because, like, Twyla didn't feel the same kind of guilt that Roberta felt, and that shows, like, in her relationship with Roberta, because she doesn't really have any grudges against Roberta.
Did Twyla feel any guilt?
I don't know. I don't think Twyla felt guilt about Maggie until, like, or if she did, it was, like, really repressed, and it wasn't as strong as Roberta's, because Roberta felt really bad about it, and that definitely showed, like, in how she related to Twyla, because, so I think that kind of goes back to, like, what we were saying about how they felt about Maggie when they were kids, but now it's, like, that event and how they relate to each other. Since her relationship with her mom is a little bit more complicated, well, we don't know how complicated Roberta's relationship with her mom was, that, like, maybe she misinterpreted her feelings for Maggie, too, so maybe, like, what she was feeling, like, the feelings of, you know, hatred towards Maggie, if she didn't really interpret them like that, you know, like, she had complicated feelings towards Maggie, too, like, she didn't really understand, like, what she was feeling towards Maggie, kind of like she didn't really understand what she felt towards her mom.
I think so, too.
And so that kind of goes, like, to the whole, like, you know, this big issue of racism. Like, I think it's such a complicated issue that people want to find something simple to throw. So they blame it on race, but it's really not race. It's just, you know, it's a lot more complicated than that.
They hate the other race that get feared on. That's kind of what
Roberta
and Twyla, they fear being like their mothers. So that's why.
Yeah, it's a combination of hate and fear, I think. Like,
you can't just meet someone first time and be like, I hate them.
Or maybe you hate them because you fear them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But after so long of, like, I'm not saying, like, you know, like, I hate them, but feel awkward or maybe, like, unsafe or something. I mean, it's just, like, years of this, like, continuing on.
Yeah, and I think, like, it might start out as something as where it's about self-hate and, like, you're, like, just projecting everything you hate about yourself on, like, these other people that are more vulnerable than you. But then, like, as what you're saying, like, where it becomes, like, sort of second nature, I think that's just, like, you know, after repeating it so many times, it just becomes kind of behavior.
That thing where, like, you know, you see something and it reminds you of it, like, even, like, unconsciously, and I think that's kind of
like what Roberta did.
Right.
Yeah, because, like, she's had, like, these really strong feelings, you know, about her, like, her guilt and herself, and she just sort of, like, is projecting them on Twyla, and it's, like, they keep, I mean, I think that's what Toni Morrison's trying to say, like, overall, is just that racism is so complicated. Sometimes you just, like, do these things or want to do these things, and you don't even know why, because it's just, like, kind of like this overpowering, I don't know. Feeling? Yeah, feeling, I guess. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess racism is kind of an emotion, I think.
Well, I think they both knew that their mothers were the reason why they were at St. Bonnie's. So, I mean, it's one characteristic that they always have in common is, like, their mothers and, like, what happened to them when they were younger. So, I mean, it's one thing that they'll always understand about each other in a way
that nobody else really does.
Yeah, like, Clark's gonna, you know, you wouldn't, I mean, I wouldn't go up to Twyla. If I knew her mom was a stripper, I wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, is your mom still dancing? But for Roberta and Twyla, it's kind of okay for them to do that because they know, and ever since a young age, it was like,
maybe that's why that's kind of the problem with their relationship is that they know the other person knows, and that, like, since they both are kind of, like, their situations are sort of equal.
Yeah.
They know that like they weren't justified in wanting to hurt Maggie, and that by knowing that both of them know that about each other, it makes them really uncomfortable, and it makes them want to hate each other, because then it's like sort of like they're being called out on it.
They can't lie, because the other will be like, yeah, they'll call them out and be like, no, this is what really happened, since you really saw it.
And I think that's why race doesn't matter in the story, or like that's why Toni Morrison doesn't like mention race in the story, to show that they are like they're equal and they're experiencing like the same thing. And